The night was supposed to be one of celebration. The room was filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses as friends and family gathered to celebrate my recent promotion at work. I had worked tirelessly for years, putting in countless hours and sacrifices, and tonight was meant to be a testament to those efforts. I stood by the window, a glass of champagne in hand, surveying the joyful scene before me. Amanda, my wife of 10 years, was at the center of it all, her radiant smile lighting up the room. For a moment, everything seemed perfect, but then, as I glanced over at Amanda, I noticed something that made my heart skip a beat. She was standing too close to George, her coworker. The way they were laughing together, the subtle touches and lingering glances, it was enough to set off alarm bells in my mind. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, attributing it to the stress and exhaustion of the past few weeks. But as the night went on, I couldn't ignore the nagging doubt that gnawed at me. Every time I looked over at Amanda and George, I saw something that made my stomach churn. It wasn't just their proximity, it was the intimacy in their interactions, the way they seemed to be in their little world despite the crowd around them. Unable to bear the sight any longer, I excused myself and stepped outside for some fresh air. The cool night breeze did little to calm my racing thoughts. I leaned against the railing of our porch, staring out into the darkness. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, anger, betrayal. How could Amanda, the woman I had devoted my life to, be involved with someone else? I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone, deciding to check the messages Amanda had sent me earlier. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just my imagination, but as I scrolled through her texts, my heart sank. There were messages from George, more frequent and personal than they should have been. And then I saw it, a photo of the two of them together, taken at a bar I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Miss our little getaways." The ground seemed to shift beneath my feet. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as the reality of the situation began to sink in. Amanda was cheating on me. The evidence was right there in front of me, undeniable and crushing. I stood there, gripping the phone, feeling a mix of rage and heartbreak. How could she do this to me? After everything we had been through, after all the love and trust we had built, how could she throw it all away? The sound of laughter from inside the house felt like a cruel mockery of my pain. I knew I couldn't confront Amanda here, not tonight, not in front of everyone. I needed time to think and to process what I had just discovered. Taking one last look at the photo, I steeled myself. I knew that from that moment on, my life would never be the same. The happy facade of our marriage had been shattered, and there was no going back. I had to face the painful truth and decide what to do next. As I walked back inside, I forced a smile, pretending everything was fine. The celebration continued around me, but I felt like a stranger in my own home. My mind was already racing ahead, planning my next steps. I would gather more evidence, confront Amanda, and take control of the situation. This was just the beginning of a journey I never wanted to embark on, but I had no choice. Little did I know that this revelation would set off a chain of events that would change my life forever. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges, but I was determined to emerge stronger, no matter the cost. The discovery of Amanda's betrayal weighed heavily on my heart. Days passed in a fog of confusion and heartbreak. I would go to work, perform my duties mechanically, and come home only to be reminded of the messages I had read. Every glance at Amanda, every touch, every word felt tainted by the knowledge of her infidelity. I spent countless nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying moments from our life together. The anniversary dinners, the vacations, the quiet evenings at home, everything seemed to take on a different hue. I could see the cracks now, the moments where her laughter seemed a little forced, her smile a bit strained. It was all so clear in hindsight. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I sat down with a glass of whiskey and let the anger wash over me. I couldn't believe that the woman I loved, the woman I trusted more than anyone in the world, could do this to me. I knew I needed to talk to someone to get it all out, but who could I trust with this? My thoughts turned to my best friend, Tom. He had been with me through thick and thin, and I knew he would have my back no matter what. I picked up the phone and dialed his number. "Hey Jack, what's up?" Tom's cheerful voice came through the line. "Tom, I need to talk to you. It's about Amanda," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Sure, man, what's going on?" His tone immediately became serious. I took a deep breath and told him everything. The messages, the suspicions, the heartache. Tom listened quietly, offering a few murmurs of support as I poured my heart out. "Jack, I'm so sorry you're going through this," he said when I finished. "You don't deserve this, but you need to be smart about this. You need a plan." His words resonated with me. A plan. I couldn't just confront Amanda and risk losing everything. I needed to be careful and methodical. I needed to gather evidence and prepare myself for the battle ahead. Determined to take control of the situation, I started devising a plan. First, I needed concrete evidence of Amanda's infidelity. The messages were a start, but I needed more. I needed undeniable proof that would hold up in court if it came to that. I decided to hire a private investigator. It felt like a drastic step, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't afford to leave any stone unturned. I did some research and found a reputable agency. After a few days, I met with the investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Lisa, who assured me she would get to the bottom of it. "Don't worry, Jack. We'll find out exactly what's going on," Lisa said confidently. While Lisa began her investigation, I started looking into our finances. I needed to understand exactly how much money was at stake. Amanda had always been the one to handle our financial affairs, but now I regretted not being more involved. I spent hours poring over bank statements, credit card bills, and investment accounts. It was worse than I thought. Amanda had been funneling money into a separate account for years. The amounts were small at first, but they had grown over time. She was preparing for something, perhaps a life without me. My anger and determination grew with each discovery. I knew I had to protect myself and my assets. I contacted a lawyer, John, who specialized in divorce cases. He was a sharp, experienced attorney who had seen it all. "Jack, we need to play this carefully. Gather as much evidence as you can, and don't let Amanda suspect anything," John advised. I nodded, feeling more resolute than ever. "I have a team now, Lisa, John, and Tom. Together, we would uncover the truth and ensure Amanda faced the consequences of her actions." As Lisa's investigation progressed, the picture of Amanda's deceit became clearer. Lisa provided me with photographs, recordings, and detailed reports of Amanda's meetings with George. They met at upscale restaurants, fancy hotels, and even at his office late at night. It was painfully clear that their relationship was far more than just professional. Each piece of evidence felt like another dagger in my heart, but it also fueled my determination. I knew I couldn't let my emotions get the best of me. I had to stay focused on the goal, exposing Amanda and protecting myself. One evening, Lisa called me with an update. "Jack, I found something interesting. Amanda and George are planning a trip to a resort next month. It might be the perfect opportunity to catch them red-handed." I felt a surge of hope. This could be the break I needed. We discussed the details and formulated a plan. Lisa would follow them, gathering as much evidence as possible. Meanwhile, I would continue to act as if everything was normal at home. Pretending to be oblivious to Amanda's betrayal was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Every time she smiled at me or reached out to touch my hand, I had to suppress the urge to pull away. I felt like I was living a lie, but I knew it was necessary to maintain the facade. As the day of their trip approached, I could sense Amanda's excitement. She tried to mask it, but I could see the anticipation in her eyes. It made me sick to my stomach. How could she be so happy while deceiving me so completely? The night before she was set to leave, we had dinner together. I watched her closely, looking for any sign of guilt or hesitation. But Amanda was a consummate actress. She played her part perfectly, chatting about her business trip and making plans for when she returned. "Don't worry, Jack. I'll be back before you know it," she said with a smile. I forced a smile in return, nodding. "I'll miss you, Amanda. Be safe." As soon as she left the next morning, I called Lisa. "It's time. Follow them and get everything we need." Lisa assured me she was on it, and I spent the next few days anxiously waiting for updates. When she finally called, the news was better than I could have hoped for. "Jack, I've got them. Everything. Photos, videos, even audio recordings. This is all the proof you need." With the evidence in hand, I contacted John and scheduled a meeting to review everything. He was impressed by the thoroughness of Lisa's work. "This is solid, Jack. This will hold up in court." But I knew I needed more than just legal action. I wanted to make sure Amanda and George faced the full consequences of their actions, both personally and professionally. I thought about George's wife, Meg. She deserved to know the truth as much as I did. I reached out to her, unsure of how she would react. When we met, I could see the pain and confusion in her eyes. It mirrored my own emotions. I explained everything, showing her the evidence Lisa had gathered. Meg was devastated, but she quickly regained her composure. "Jack, thank you for telling me. I knew something was wrong, but I never imagined it was this bad," she said, her voice trembling. We discussed our next steps and agreed to work together. We decided to confront Amanda and George at the next company event, where they would both be in attendance. It was risky, but we wanted to ensure their humiliation was as public as possible. The day of the event arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. Meg and I coordinated our plan, making sure everything was in place. As the evening wore on, I spotted Amanda and George mingling with their colleagues, laughing and enjoying themselves as if nothing was wrong. I felt a surge of anger, but I kept it in check. The time for confrontation was near. Meg and I took our positions, and when the moment was right, we made our move. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "I have something important to share." All eyes turned to me as I revealed the evidence of Amanda and George's affair. Gasps and whispers filled the room as the photos and recordings played on the screen. Amanda's face went pale, and George looked like he wanted to disappear. "This is the truth," I said, my gaze fixed on Amanda. "The truth about their betrayal." The room erupted into chaos as people reacted to the shocking revelation. Amanda tried to approach me, but I turned away, refusing to let her manipulate me any longer. I felt a sense of vindication as I walked away, knowing that justice had finally been served. The chaos of the public revelation reverberated through the room long after I had left. The next few days were a whirlwind of media attention, hushed whispers, and shocked expressions from friends and acquaintances. Amanda's betrayal was the talk of the town, and everywhere I went, I could feel the weight of their pity and curiosity. Amanda attempted to reach out to me several times, pleading for a chance to explain herself, but I couldn't bear to hear her voice, much less her excuses. I ignored her calls and texts, focusing instead on the next steps of my plan. The confrontation was just the beginning. I met with John to discuss the legal proceedings. "Jack, you've got a strong case," he reassured me. "With the evidence we have, you'll come out on top." I nodded, though the thought of a prolonged legal battle was exhausting. "What about our assets? Can we protect what's rightfully mine?" John leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "We'll need to be strategic. Amanda's been siphoning money into that separate account, but with the right approach, we can recover those funds and ensure she doesn't take more than her fair share." We formulated a plan to freeze Amanda's accounts and start the process of asset division. It was going to be a long and arduous journey, but I was determined to see it through. During this tumultuous period, I found solace in the support of my friends and family. Tom was a constant presence, offering a listening ear and practical advice. My parents, initially shocked by the news, rallied around me, providing a stable foundation during this time of uncertainty. "Jack, you need to take care of yourself," my mother said gently one evening, as she handed me a cup of tea. "This ordeal is going to take a toll on you." "I know, Mom," I replied, feeling a pang of guilt for worrying them. "I'm doing my best." To distract myself and regain a sense of normalcy, I threw myself into my work. My colleagues were sympathetic and gave me the space I needed to process everything. I found that immersing myself in projects helped keep my mind off the pain and anger. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the office, Tom invited me out for a drink. "You need a break, Jack. Let's blow off some steam." We went to a local bar, a place we had frequented in our younger years. It felt good to be out, surrounded by the hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses. As we sipped our beers, Tom broached a sensitive topic. "Have you thought about what you'll do once the dust settles?" he asked. I stared into my glass, contemplating his question. "I haven't thought that far ahead. I guess I'll rebuild. Start over." Tom nodded, a supportive smile on his face. "And you'll do great, Jack. You've got a lot going for you. Don't let Amanda's betrayal define you." His words struck a chord. I realized that while Amanda's actions had shattered my world, they didn't have to dictate my future. I could rebuild, find a new purpose, and eventually, maybe even find happiness again. As the legal proceedings progressed, Lisa continued her investigation into Amanda's activities. One afternoon, she called me with some surprising news. "Jack, I've uncovered something you need to see," Lisa said, her voice serious. We met at a cafe, and she handed me a folder filled with documents and photographs. As I flipped through the contents, my eyes widened in disbelief. Amanda's betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined. "She's been embezzling money from her own company," Lisa explained, "using her position to funnel funds into offshore accounts. This isn't just about her affair with George. She's been planning her escape for years." The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Amanda's deceit was more intricate and malicious than I had ever thought possible. Not only had she betrayed me, but she had also betrayed her colleagues and her integrity. "We need to bring this to the authorities," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and determination. Lisa nodded. "I've already contacted a financial crimes investigator. They'll take it from here." The following weeks were a blur of meetings with lawyers, investigators, and financial experts. The scope of Amanda's betrayal continued to unfold, revealing a web of lies and deceit that spanned years. It was overwhelming, but it also strengthened my resolve to see this through to the end. The day of the court hearing arrived, and I walked into the courtroom with John by my side. Amanda was already there, looking pale and anxious. George was conspicuously absent, having distanced himself from the scandal as much as possible. The proceedings were intense. John's presentation of the evidence was thorough and compelling, leaving no room for doubt about Amanda's actions. Her lawyer attempted to counter, but the weight of the evidence was too much to overcome. As the judge reviewed the evidence, I felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. This moment would determine the course of my future. "Based on the evidence presented, I find in favor of the plaintiff," the judge declared, her voice firm and authoritative. "The defendant's actions have been deceitful and malicious. The court orders the freezing of all her accounts and the return of any misappropriated funds." Relief washed over me as the verdict was announced. Justice had been served, and Amanda would face the consequences of her actions. But this victory was bittersweet. While I had won the legal battle, the emotional scars would take much longer to heal. As we left the courtroom, John patted me on the back. "You did it, Jack. Now it's time to focus on rebuilding your life." I nodded, knowing he was right. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to face it head-on. I had survived Amanda's betrayal, and now it was time to start anew. The courtroom victory gave me a sense of closure, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life. Rebuilding after such a profound betrayal was no easy task. I knew I needed to restore my sense of trust, not just in others, but in myself as well. One of the first steps was addressing my financial situation. With Amanda's accounts frozen and the misappropriated funds being recovered, I began to regain some control over my finances. I hired a financial advisor to help me navigate the complexities and to ensure I was making sound decisions for my future. "Jack, the key is to create a solid plan and stick to it," my advisor Rachel said during our first meeting. "You've been through a lot, but this is an opportunity to rebuild stronger than before." We spent hours going through my financial statements, setting up budgets, and planning for the future. It was a tedious process, but it was also empowering. For the first time in months, I felt like I was taking control of my life again. As the weeks passed, I also focused on my well-being. I started going to the gym regularly, finding solace in physical activity. The endorphins helped to lift my spirits, and the routine provided a sense of stability. I also began attending a support group for people who had experienced infidelity. Sharing my story with others who had gone through similar experiences was both cathartic and enlightening. It was comforting to know I wasn't alone, and I drew strength from the resilience of others in the group. Through these efforts, I slowly started to regain my confidence. I realized that while Amanda's betrayal had hurt me deeply, it didn't define who I was. I was still capable of love, trust, and happiness. One evening, after a particularly intense support group meeting, I lingered outside the community center, lost in thought. A woman from the group, Jenna, approached me. She had shared her own story of betrayal, and we had exchanged sympathetic glances during the meeting. "Hey, Jack," she said, her voice gentle. "I just wanted to say your story resonated with me. It takes a lot of courage to share what you've been through." "Thanks, Jenna," I replied, appreciating her kindness. "It helps to talk about it, doesn't it?" She nodded. "Absolutely. It's hard to open up, but it's the first step toward healing. We ended up talking for hours, sharing more details about our experiences and the challenges we faced in rebuilding our lives. There was an undeniable connection between us, forged through our shared pain and determination to move forward. Over the next few weeks, Jenna and I continued to meet after the support group sessions. Our conversations grew deeper, and we found comfort in each other's company. She understood my pain in a way few others could, and I felt a growing sense of hope whenever we were together. One evening, as we sat on a park bench overlooking the city, Jenna turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Jack, have you thought about what you want for your future, beyond just recovering from all of this?" Her question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on getting through each day that I hadn't considered the bigger picture. "I guess I just want to be happy again," I admitted. "To find peace and maybe, someday, to trust someone completely." Jenna smiled, her eyes reflecting the same hope I felt. "I think you're well on your way, Jack. And who knows, maybe we'll both find happiness sooner than we think." As my friendship with Jenna deepened, I felt a sense of renewal. Her presence in my life was like a breath of fresh air, reminding me that even after the darkest storms, there was always the promise of a new dawn. We continued to support each other, sharing our triumphs and setbacks, and gradually our connection grew into something more. One evening, Jenna and I decided to go out for dinner. It was our first official date, and I was both nervous and excited. We chose a cozy Italian restaurant, a place with warm lighting and a relaxed atmosphere. As we sat across from each other, I marveled at how far I had come since discovering Amanda's betrayal. "Jack, I've been thinking," Jenna said, twirling her pasta with her fork. "We've both been through so much, but we've also grown a lot. I feel like we're ready for a new chapter." I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. "I feel the same way, Jenna. Being with you has helped me heal in ways I never thought possible. I'm ready to move forward, to build something new." Our date was filled with laughter and heartfelt conversations. We talked about our dreams, our hopes for the future, and the lessons we had learned from our pasts. It was a beautiful evening, and I realized that I was falling in love with her. Over the next few months, Jenna and I continued to grow closer. We explored new hobbies together, went on weekend trips, and supported each other in our personal and professional endeavors. Our relationship was built on trust, respect, and a deep understanding of each other's pain and resilience. One sunny afternoon, as we walked along the beach, I turned to Jenna, my heart full of love and gratitude. "Jenna, I know we've both been through a lot, but I truly believe that we were meant to find each other. You've brought so much light into my life, and I can't imagine my future without you." Tears welled up in her eyes as she smiled. "Jack, I feel the same way. You've helped me heal and believe in love again. I'm so grateful for you." At that moment, I knew that despite the pain and betrayal I had endured, I had found something beautiful and lasting. Jenna and I were ready to embark on a new journey together, one filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. With my life moving forward in positive directions, there was one final piece of unfinished business that I needed to address: confronting Amanda. The legal battles were over and justice had been served, but I needed closure. I needed to face her one last time to truly let go of the anger and betrayal that had consumed me for so long. I arranged to meet Amanda at a neutral location, a quiet cafe outside of town. As I walked in, I saw her sitting at a corner table, looking tired and weary. She glanced up and our eyes met. For a moment, a flood of memories washed over me. Our wedding day, the happy times, and then the bitter sting of betrayal. "Jack," she greeted me, her voice soft and uncertain. "Amanda," I replied, taking a seat opposite her. There was a heavy silence between us, filled with unspoken words and lingering pain. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," she admitted, fiddling with the edge of her napkin. "I almost didn't," I said honestly. "But I realized that I need to do this for myself. I need closure." Amanda nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of regret and sadness. "I know I hurt you, Jack, more than I can ever express. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did and why I did it." "Why did you do it, Amanda?" I asked, my voice steady but filled with a deep sense of betrayal. "Was it just about the money?" She sighed, looking down at her hands. "It wasn't just about the money, though that played a part. I was unhappy, Jack. I felt trapped in a life that wasn't fulfilling, And I thought George could give me what I was missing: financial security, excitement, a way out. I listened, trying to understand her perspective even though it didn't excuse her actions. And did he? Tears welled up in her eyes. No, he used me just like I used you. When everything came crashing down, he disappeared. I lost everything: my job, my reputation, and the life I thought I wanted. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy for her. Despite everything, it was clear that Amanda was suffering too, but I couldn't forget the pain she had caused me. "I've found someone new, Amanda," I said, my voice firm. "Someone who respects and values me. Someone who understands what it means to love and be loyal. I came here today to let go of the anger and to move on with my life." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm happy for you, Jack. Truly, you deserve to be happy." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our past hanging between us. Finally, I stood up, feeling a sense of closure wash over me. "Goodbye, Amanda," I said softly. "Goodbye, Jack," she replied, her voice trembling. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt a lightness in my step that I hadn't felt in a long time. The chapter with Amanda was finally closed, and I was ready to fully embrace my future with Jenna. The confrontation with Amanda had been the final hurdle in my journey towards healing. As I walked away from that cafe, I felt a sense of liberation. The weight of the past had finally been lifted, and I was ready to fully embrace my future. Life with Jenna continued to flourish. We found joy in the little things: morning runs, cooking dinner together, and sharing our dreams late into the night. Our relationship was built on trust and mutual respect, a stark contrast to what I had experienced with Amanda. I was genuinely happy for the first time in years. One Saturday morning, Jenna and I decided to take a trip to the countryside. We packed a picnic and set off early, eager to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. As we drove through the scenic routes, the lush greenery and the chirping of birds filled us with a sense of peace and contentment. We arrived at a beautiful meadow, with wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze. It was a perfect spot for our picnic. We spread out a blanket and sat down, enjoying the tranquility of nature. "Jack, this place is incredible," Jenna said, her eyes sparkling with delight. "It's like a little piece of paradise." I smiled, feeling a warmth in my heart. "I'm glad you like it. I wanted to share this with you because it feels like a new beginning, a fresh start." We spent the afternoon talking, laughing, and simply enjoying each other's company. It was in these moments that I realized how much Jenna had become a part of my life. She had helped me heal, and in the process, we had built something beautiful together. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the meadow, I felt a surge of emotion. This was the moment. I had been carrying a small box in my pocket all day, waiting for the right time. "Jenna," I began, my voice trembling slightly. She looked at me, her eyes full of curiosity and love. "You've brought so much joy and healing into my life. I never thought I could find love again after everything that happened, but you showed me that it's possible." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the box, opening it to reveal a delicate ring. Jenna gasped, her eyes widening in surprise. "Will you marry me?" I asked, my heart pounding. Tears filled her eyes as she smiled, a radiant expression of joy and love. "Yes, Jack. Yes, I will marry you." I slipped the ring onto her finger and we embraced, both of us overwhelmed with emotion. This was our new beginning, a testament to the strength of love and the power of healing. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of excitement as we began planning our wedding. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family. It felt fitting, given everything we had been through. This was a celebration of our journey and our love. Our friends and family were thrilled for us. My parents, who had been a pillar of support throughout my ordeal, were overjoyed. Tom, my ever-loyal friend, was by my side, helping with the preparations and offering his unwavering support. The day of our wedding arrived, and I stood at the altar waiting for Jenna. The venue was a charming garden, adorned with flowers and twinkling lights. It was a beautiful, serene setting, perfect for the occasion. As Jenna walked down the aisle, my heart swelled with emotion. She looked breathtakingly beautiful, her smile radiant and full of love. I felt a tear slip down my cheek, unable to contain the overwhelming joy and gratitude I felt at that moment. The ceremony was heartfelt and intimate. We exchanged vows, promising to love and support each other through thick and thin. As I slipped the ring onto Jenna's finger, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. After the ceremony, we celebrated with our loved ones. There was laughter, dancing, and a sense of joy that permeated the air. It was a perfect evening, a reflection of the happiness we had found in each other. Later that night, as Jenna and I sat together, watching the stars, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had led me to this moment. I was grateful for every step, every challenge, and every victory. "Jack, this is just the beginning," Jenna said, her voice soft and full of promise. I nodded, my heart full. "Yes, it is, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." We sat in silence, enjoying the serenity of the night and the comfort of each other's presence. I knew that no matter what came our way, we would face it together, with love and strength. As we embarked on this new journey, I felt a sense of hope and excitement. Life had thrown many challenges my way, but it had also given me the greatest gift of all, the chance to love and be loved in return. And for that, I was eternally grateful. The happiness and fulfillment I found with Jenna were immeasurable. But there was one more thing I needed to address before I could fully move on from the wreckage Amanda had left behind. I had rebuilt my life, found new love, and reclaimed my sense of self-worth. But there was a part of me that still craved justice, not just the legal kind, but a personal vindication. Amanda had sought to ruin me for her gain, and while she had failed, the scars she left warranted a final reckoning. One day, as Jenna and I sat together planning our future, I received a call from a private investigator I had hired months ago. His job had been to keep an eye on Amanda, to ensure she didn't try anything else that could disrupt my life. But now, he had new information. "Jack, I think you might want to hear this," said the investigator, his voice carrying a tone of urgency. "Amanda has been trying to get in touch with George again. She thinks he still has some of the money they siphoned off together." I felt a cold, hard knot of anger tighten in my chest. Amanda still hadn't learned her lesson. She was trying to rekindle her old schemes, driven by the same greed that had led to her downfall. I thanked the investigator and ended the call, my mind racing with possibilities. This was my chance to end things once and for all. "Jenna, there's something I need to take care of," I said, explaining the situation. She looked at me with a mixture of concern and support. "I trust you, Jack. Just promise me you'll be careful," she said, squeezing my hand. I nodded, grateful for her unwavering support. With Jenna's encouragement, I set my plan into motion. This time, I would outsmart Amanda and make sure she paid for everything she had done. Over the next few days, I gathered all the information I could about Amanda's recent activities. The investigator had been thorough, providing me with details about her meetings and communications with George. It was clear she was desperate, and desperation made people careless. I decided to confront George first. He was a slippery character, but he had a weak spot, his greed. If I could play on that, I might be able to turn the tables. I arranged a meeting with him at a high-end bar in the city, knowing the luxurious setting would appeal to his ego. When I arrived, George was already there, sipping an expensive whiskey and looking smug. He didn't know who had arranged the meeting, and the surprise on his face when he saw me was priceless. "Jack, what a surprise," he said, masking his discomfort with a forced smile. "What brings you here?" I sat down across from him, keeping my expression neutral. "I wanted to talk business, George. I know you've been in touch with Amanda. She's looking for money, isn't she?" His eyes flickered with interest. "Maybe. Why do you care?" "Because I have a proposition for you," I said, leaning in. "Amanda thinks she can manipulate everyone around her to get what she wants. But what if we turn the tables? What if we make her think she's winning, only to take everything from her in the end?" George's interest was piqued. He loved a good scheme, especially one that involved money. "Go on." I laid out my plan, detailing how we could set Amanda up to believe she was getting a substantial amount of money. We'd let her think she was orchestrating a big win, but in reality, it would be a trap. George, motivated by his greed and a chance to get back at Amanda for abandoning him, readily agreed. With George on board, the plan came together quickly. We arranged a fake deal, complete with forged documents and a phony bank transfer. The investigator helped ensure everything was meticulously planned. All that was left was to lure Amanda into the trap. I set up a meeting with Amanda under the guise of discussing a business opportunity. She was cautious, but intrigued. Her desperation for money overpowered her caution, just as I had anticipated. The day of the meeting arrived, and we convened in a sleek office space rented for the occasion. Amanda walked in, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of suspicion and greed. George and I were waiting, our expressions carefully composed. "Jack, George," she greeted us, feigning politeness. "What's this all about?" "I have a proposal," I began, sliding the forged documents across the table. "There's a substantial amount of money involved, and I think it could benefit all of us." Amanda's eyes lit up as she glanced at the papers. She was hooked. We went through the motions of discussing the deal, with George playing his part perfectly. Everything seemed legitimate, and Amanda's greed blinded her to any potential deceit. As we reached the climax of the meeting, I made the final move. "All we need now is for you to sign these papers, Amanda. Once that's done, the money will be transferred to your account." She hesitated for a moment, her eyes flickering between George and me, but her desperation won out, and she signed the documents, sealing her fate. "Excellent," I said, standing up. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to finalize a few more details." Amanda watched us leave, a triumphant smile on her face. She had no idea what was coming. The trap was set, and it didn't take long for Amanda to realize she had been duped. The fake bank transfer didn't go through, and the documents she had signed were worthless. She was left with nothing, her plans in ruins. I felt a sense of grim satisfaction as I watched everything unfold. Amanda had tried to manipulate and betray me for her gain, but in the end, her greed had been her downfall. I returned home that evening, feeling a sense of closure I hadn't felt before. Jenna was waiting for me, her eyes filled with concern and love. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice gentle. "It's over," I replied, pulling her into a hug. "Amanda got what she deserved. Now we can move on, truly and completely." As I held Jenna close, I realized that my revenge wasn't just about getting back at Amanda. It was about reclaiming my life and my happiness. Amanda's betrayal had almost destroyed me, but it had also led me to Jenna, and for that, I was grateful. In the end, the best revenge was living a life filled with love, trust, and genuine happiness. And with Jenna by my side, I knew I had everything I needed to do just that.